took away. That's the best. Get your money's worth. Now, that was it.
We got Scott Kushner in the building. Scott, how you doing, man? Scott, to me, I give Scott the credit for breaking the news. Actually,
Jump back in that world, man. 5 minutes.
hey,
I got
What's
it.
up, Scott?
how you doing,
Had-
brother?
I was watching the kids had a bottle of wine. I was like, hey, I guess I should just say what I've heard. Why not?
Hey, why not? Why not? You gotta
Why
be
not?
careful. You know, they hate when people drink wine. But good.
Yeah, you gotta watch that. Gotta watch that, Scott.
So Scott, let me ask you something. So when did you initially start hearing about these things, man? And this is Scott Kushner. You write for the Advocate, did some incredible coverage of the Pelicans. Been used to read your work all the time, Scott. And to me, you were always holding the team accountable, man. So when did you start hearing these whispers and start, getting fearful that this was coming to a reality?
I had a I had heard a while ago that Griff was in a lot of trouble. Basically, once he had gone to ownership to try to bounce Willie, which I think was sometime around the turn of the year, everybody around was like, "There's going to be an opening." And I have a bunch of friends and stuff who are in lower levels of league offices, and they want the job, and so they're all pushing and whatever. And and as that's all starting to jockey and people are getting in position as the season's starting to wind to an end, 3 days ago, every person I talked to is like, it's over. It's like this thing never even opened. Like Joe Dumars' kids are already telling people, his family's already telling people they're moving to New Orleans and it's done. I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, yeah, it's done. Like they're not even
Jesus
they're
Christ.
not even going to open this thing. So whether or not any today might have scared them off, I highly doubt it. Everybody over there seems to be on airlines seems to be pretty fired up about it, from what I'm told. But yeah, man, it sounds like it was kind of a cut and dry deal.
So let me ask you something, Scott. So would you say that the airline, because this coming on the heels of the Derek Carr situation, like it just the optics are just terrible, man. And you had people cover the Saints. They're speaking about, when did the Saints know about this Derek Carr injury? When, like, it seems a lot like a Zion situation also. And it's
Yeah.
like Mickey, because it all ties back to Mickey Loomis. Mickey Loomis is the person with the relationship with Joe Dumars. Mickey Loomis is the guy who decided to bring the great Derek Carr back. We would to the understanding that Mickey Loomis no longer had influence over the New Orleans Pelicans, especially considering he wanted Dennis Allen to return. So, what role does Mickey Loomis play in this situation?
Mickey has kind of always been, and it's not just Mickey, it's Dennis Lauscha and Greg Bensel and Ben Hales. And Mickey probably has the largest role because he's more closely entwined with operations, but they're all basically the owner. I think that's the way to think about it. Is it's more
Mm-hmm.
like an ownership
Right.
group. And so, yeah, Mickey is the guy running the Saints, and technically his name isn't on the Pelicans because I think that was a thing that they made an error. Tom Benson made an error when he made Mickey the head of it because it put Mickey in the crosshairs as the Anthony Davis situation went down. It really put the team in a bad spot because
Right.
everyone's finally looked at their org chart and was like, what the hell's going on here? And so then they made the decision to change that, but nothing really in practicality changed. Mickey is always going to have a large voice within that business, not just football and not just what it when they're buying car dealerships or whatever. He also has a role, like he is a very integral part of that entire organization. And so, yes, Mickey is makes decisions at this level. Now, does he deal with basketball on a day-to-day basis, player movement, that kind of thing? No, he does not deal with any of that. But for this, bringing in the guy who's going to replace Griff, yes, absolutely, Mickey has to say.
Hey, Scott, let me. Oh, my bad, Chris.
No, you're
Go ahead,
good.
Lito. No, I'm not
What's
gonna
up?
answer it.
What's up, Scott, man? Thank you for joining us, man. Big fan of your work. You had a tweet earlier, and you said, "Say what you want about David Griffin. It was an aspirational hire. Joe Dumars does not feel like that. This is a Mickey Loomis friend who hasn't run a team in 11 years. On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you rank Joe Dumars as an executive?"
I mean, it depends what you're looking for. If you're looking to be respected around the league by the other owners and by the highest levels of the other executives, yeah, he's probably like a solid 6 or 7. If you're trying to win a championship, he's probably a 2.
Jesus.
And the same thing, like with your fans. Like he is a stable, well-known, well-respected, hardworking, good guy. And it's like, that's all great, but like, he's not on the cutting edge. He's on the he might be so far away from the cutting edge that he is actually on the other side of it. Like if it's a circle, then he might be, but if technology is cyclical, which it's not, then he's on the other side of this, he's still, like vinyl records got cool again. It's like one of those, it's like,
caveman.
it's
hammer and chisel.
Yeah, exactly.
You just
He's
discovered
using
fire.
the typewriter, but yeah, man, it's one of those. But he is respected. And again, like Joe Dumars is not a bad guy. Like I think everyone's going to get mad because they wanted someone who's 32 and a brilliant young mind and all this stuff, and it's like that's just not Joe Dumars, quite honestly. And so that's sort of the position that they find themselves in, is that they wanted. I think the Zion situation has really embarrassed them and really pissed them off to an extreme degree. And Griff and the way he was a little cringe, I think, bothered them too. And this is sort of a reaction to that.
Scott, okay.
You go ahead.
Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Scott, let me ask you, man. You said another tweet earlier. You said literally the only thing that can make me have a lower opinion on the ownership group is if they fire Griff to hire Joe Dumars.
Yeah.
Now, because listen, the more that I hear like more details about the situation, it almost sounds like they you get together like with your friends and like you go have drinks. And then just randomly you like, so hey bro, like I was working on something the other day and I was thinking like, what you think about running the Pelicans? Cause that's what it sounds like. Hey, like Joe, I need a favor. I know it's been a while, but just think about it. But in all seriousness though, here, what do you think is the biggest problem that this ownership group has for those that maybe aren't as aware?
I don't think they're in it to win at the highest level. I just don't think they've ever thought they could win at the highest level in New Orleans. And there's probably a logical thread to that. But if you got them in an honest moment, which I've used to get them in a couple of honest moments, I don't believe in their heart they think they can win at the highest level here. And I think they do think they can do that in the NFL. But their aspiration is very clearly to kind of reach the upper part of the middle in the NBA. Like they were thrilled winning the first round series against Portland like that. And that is about, I think, where they expect to sort of top out. And it's hard to win in New Orleans. There's no question it's harder to win in New Orleans, but it's hard to win in Milwaukee. It's hard to win in San Antonio. It's hard to win. There's a lot of places where it's hard to win, and they win at least more than New Orleans. Almost everybody wins more than New Orleans. So I just think it is a secondary priority, which is the thing that bothers me the most about it, because I know how they operate, and it is a secondary priority. The Pelicans are. And then on top of that, I just don't think they are reaching to try to actually win at that level. And the fact that they are one of, two teams that has never paid the tax is like an exact, like that's literally the only stat you really need to know. And it's not like they're not paying. Like they upped their budget. I would say they probably tripled their budget from when Dell was there, as far as like travel and staff and bringing people like Swin and Trajan and all this. Like they've spent a ton of money, but it's not about the money. It's the fact that they do not have the expectations. They do not have the standards to try to push to that next level. And that's why it just feels like they'll never get there. And that's why that's frustrating, I'm sure, for you guys, and it's as well for me.
Yeah, I think with with that in mind, obviously, I'm pretty sure I know your answer here, but I mean, the whispers about Willie being safe as all of this stuff transpires, I mean, I think speaks to exactly what you were just saying, that it's a franchise not looking to in any way push the bounds on winning. I mean, are you buying that rumor that Willie probably hangs around and is safe through all this?
I think unless somebody else tries to sign him, I think the best, I think there is a legitimate chance the Suns do want to bring him in. And in that case, they wouldn't have to pay a buyout, and it would be, I think a little more cut and dry, and that I could see that happening. But otherwise, I mean, Dumars and Willie know each other. And that's probably good for Willie. And look, we saw this exact same scenario with Alvin Gentry, where they really liked Alvin and they loved the way he handled the fallout from the AD thing. And I think they've liked the way that Willie has handled all this bullshit with Zion. And he's kind of remained, kind of above it all a little bit. And it's helped his reputation. And I think they're going to give him a chance. And they will let Joe Dumars do what he wants to do. But my guess is that Joe Dumars is going to want to keep Willie unless he can get someone who he knows really well that also wants to do it. But I don't know who on earth that is really well established who wants this job unless they're going to pay a lot more than they're paying right now.
Scott, there was a rumor on the timeline today about one you just spoke about with keeping Willie. The other half of the rumor was trading Zion. I'm not asking you don't have to go out of your way, but have you heard anything about them wanting to move Zion?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to think that's going to be up to Dumars. I know the ownership and everybody. It's not just ownership. I mean, literally anyone who wears a Pelican on their shirt is tired of Zion. There's a lot. He's, it's tiring. It's exhausting.
Right.
It's not just the fact he's not healthy. It's his, professionalism and all those kinds of things that feel controllable. And that is after this many years, and he's not 19 anymore. It's those things are exhausting, and it's why you move on from people. But yeah, that's all part of the equation. But again, I don't know. Joe Dumars is also the really positive part of Joe Dumars, right? Is he will probably be able to sit down in a room with Zion and motherfuck him and look him straight in the face and not be scared of him at all, And that is a big difference from Griff, who did not do that ever. And so if you want to scare him straight and all that sort of stuff, I think Joe Dumars is a much better person-to-person relationship with that for the players than Griff ever could have possibly been.
Man, that certainly terrified me. I would say, do you think I'm shaking right now, Scott? Damn. So let me ask you, this, bro. Do you think, because Scott, again, man, I remember some of the things you used to write back in the day. I'm how they let Scott, Scott is going hard in the paint here. So let me say, do you think the ownership group, they seem to be on one hand, they appear to be a team that's very aware of narratives, and we've had some issues with them ourselves to where they would like to control the narrative and be very how to say in control of things that get out there. But considering how people are responding to this hire, even when it was rumored a couple of days ago, people with your tweet, people were upset just at the mere thought of it. Every time Joe Dumars' name is mentioned, people they revolt. They revolt.
Yeah.
And with some of the, just other things the ownership has been, associated with, it just seems like the stuff with Zion wouldn't be a breaking point if you're looking inward and not living in an echo chamber. But again, you are talking about 5 years of this. But the question I really had was, are they aware? Are they conscious of how the fan base feels about what's happening? Are they conscious that people are canceling their season tickets? They're making it incredibly difficult to watch the game with this antenna program they've recently launched. People didn't necessarily like what happened with Bally's. It's just so many negatives, uniforms, et cetera, et cetera. Do they just not care? Are they not aware? What would you say, Scott?
I think there's it depends on what level you're talking about. The day-to-day PR people, I think, are really good. And I know you guys have had your problems with them, and I think the rank and file, you can get access with the Pelicans. If you go try to cover the Thunder or the Mavs, it is you're dealing with the Pravda. It is way easier to get access day to day with the Pelicans than it is with many other teams, and I will give them credit for that. And that's the day-to-day guys who are on the Pelicans side, right? When you get to that very top level and you're talking about the guys who are the big decision makers, who are the closest people to Gail Benson, that is where I think that group loses touch to a very high degree. And they're very used to controlling the narrative. They're very used to kind of owning the media, especially locally. and especially when it was the Saints and they were winning for so long, and Sean Payton would chop people off at the knees, and like there is definitely that aspect that still lives within that building at that level.
Wow.
Do they care what people on Twitter and Blue Sky and whatever are saying about Joe Dumars, their friend, who they are super excited to bring in the building? No, I don't think they care. I think they recognize frustration. I think they actually thought the Gulf Coast, whatever, and I actually enjoyed it. They thought it was a big win because it was free. I think they underestimate a little bit how difficult the antenna situation was going to be for people, especially those not in New Orleans. But yeah, so I think that there's a little bit of that, but they hear it to a degree, but they are very used to getting their way. And I would not be surprised if by the end of whatever press conference, you do see most of the story is going to be give Joe Dumars a chance. This is a local guy. This is a whatever, like he's got a track record. Let's give him a chance. Like, I do think that's going to generally be the takeaway. This is not Philadelphia. It's not New York. Like, nobody's going to come out and just kill this guy from day one, who is, by all intents and purposes, he's a good dude. Like, Joe Dumars is a good guy. So I, in that regard, they are probably correct. But I always want to make it like very clear. Like, my problem with them is at the very, very top. The rank and file people who work there work their ass off. They are really underappreciated by the very top levels. Like, it is a very weird place to work, and they do a very difficult job. A lot of them are doing two jobs because they're working it for two teams that they have to do.
Right. And
it is it's just an odd position, and the guys at the top are really, in my opinion, they are not in touch with the reality that you guys are way more in tune with Pelicans fans than anybody who's on that level with Gale.
And Scott, you actually spoke to it perfectly just now, because in my opinion, I think what's getting lost in translation is the outrage about Joe Dumars specifically. In my opinion, Joe Dumars could be anybody. Joe Dumars just represents a bad process in the situation because, like you said, they didn't even bother going through the interview process necessarily. I mean, I've heard that some people are still supposedly formally making pitches. I'm not sure if that's necessarily happening. Something I've heard earlier today when Shams made his announcement. But I think that, like, to your point, they're living in such an echo chamber. They're so detached that they don't realize the problem. We don't have the problem with Joe Dumars. We have a problem with you and how you're consistently going about things.
Yeah. No, they definitely don't see that.
Right.
Priority one over there is to make Gail Benson look good. I mean, that's really, they don't want her to be questioned. They don't want her to be, really any negative comments. Like, they really are very, that is the one line you can't cross, really,
we
when
know.
you cover them, is you cannot say things about her. And especially if you go after her personally, it's like, that is the line that they just lose their mind. And, that's their job. So again, it's my job it was my job. Now it is my fun. I very much enjoy just criticizing that aspect because it's insane that your owner is like this protected Fabergé egg who no one's allowed to talk about.
Right.
It's like, you own a $7 billion worth of essentially public-private assets. Like, you should have to answer a question every now and again. I don't really understand why this is controversial.
Scott,
but
the last time we saw her speak publicly, she called the guy Ellen Moore. We got to hide Gail. We got to keep Gail. Wait a minute, Gail.
I know. And they're like, no, she reads everything. I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's like I'd say the whole thing is. I don't know, man. It's a lot of.
Look, Ross, you look like you got a question, Ross. You got a question?
No. I asked mine. You try to find like a silver lining. Or a glimmer of something, and it's just like, damn.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is though, like Joe Dumars is not he's not dumb, he's not a bad guy. Like I think that's like what everyone is taking away is like total disaster, and it's like it's not a total disaster. They probably are not going to be any worse than they have been. The problem is the chances of them getting into that stratosphere of getting the next Giannis or whatever, of hitting at that mark. Just feel way harder when you don't have someone who's thinking significantly ahead. Like, you don't have a guy who's a next level type of executive, and instead you have a guy who is like the definition of a basketball lifer. And so you could end up with a really solid team. And I think Bryson Graham has done, if he sticks around, I think that's a really good sign for Joe Dumars. I think Bryson wants to stick around, and he's drafted really well. But it's like they have hit all these pieces on the edge, like the secondary core, and they've missed that nucleus so badly. And maybe they can get that right, but that's the hardest thing to get right. And there's just nothing to say that it's not, you can't attract it in free agency in New Orleans, and you got to buy into maybe losing a lot to get there, which they've never been okay with. And so it does feel like what kind of things have to really slam into each other in order to get to a point where you could even pretend to build to a championship. And that is like, that's where it just feels like this is very far off. But I think they just want to have a team that, like the last year's team was like the perfect example of like they won 49 games. They raised ticket prices. They got 4 playoff, ticket sales from everybody. Everybody's happy, that, and they could have done that forever. And, that's
Scott, man, again, we appreciate you, bro. Again, I give you all the credit for breaking this story, because when you said that, you kind of shook the bayou with that, man. And so in closing, well, first I want to can you tell people where they can reach you, where they can get in contact? Well, check out your podcast, Poking Kush. What are you working on right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a real job with a real family, and I do the podcast every couple of weeks with Andrew Polk. It's very fun, and we don't take this shit very seriously. So, yeah, Poking Kush, and tune in and subscribe to it. And I think you'll enjoy it because, again, we don't take it that seriously. And I spend most of the time shitting on both the teams. It's very easy right now.
Yeah, I want to leave the people with some optimism. So this is the last thing I'm going to ask you. What can the fan base do at this juncture to make their voice heard? For me, I think you got to vote with your pocketbook at this point. So what, in your opinion, what can the fan base do? This so we leave with some positivity. This has probably been a downer show for the fan base, but they're used to us. They're used to us being this way. So in your opinion, what could the fan base do?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing they ever really notice is the invoices when the invoices hit. So yeah, if you don't pay the invoice, that's the best way to do it. But I also understand, like, this is what people do for fun. It's what they do for entertainment, and they're not necessarily needing the championship to get there. But it's like, yeah, they know that in this city, if they win just enough to get you excited, then that's probably good enough. And so yeah, I would stay if you can stay away. And that's if you're upset about the current direction of things and you can stay away, that's the best way to do it. But I also think, they listen on social, they listen whatever, but it just doesn't reach that very, very top level. But, stay if you care, God bless you, because you've cared through a lot at this point.
Yeah. That's Scott Kushner, man. We appreciate you, brother. You got to keep reading your tweets, man. You out there breaking news. Y'all be sure to follow Scott on
I
X.
drink less before I tweet. Yeah.
Hey, you know what, Scott? Maybe you need to drink a little bit more. Maybe they haven't earned your silence. So, appreciate you, Scott. Brother.
Appreciate it, Scott.
It's quite freeing. All right, see y'all. Thanks y'all for having me
Thanks,
on.
man.
Peace. That was Scott Kushner, man. We appreciate Scott joining.